5 years later, snow fell softly outside the glass towers of Boston. Inside the largest research center in the city, dozens of scientists gathered around a conference screen. On the stage stood a man in a dark suit. His name was Dr. Alex Chen, but the world knew him by another name now, Dr. Alex Carter, the youngest director of the Helios Biomedical Institute. His breakthrough in neurological regeneration had shocked the scientific world. Medical journals called it the discovery that could change the future of paralysis treatment. Venture capitalists fought for investment rights. Governments invited him to speak. But Alex stood calmly as cameras flashed, because none of this excitement could compare to the quiet satisfaction in his heart. He had rebuilt his life from nothing, and the Chen family had no place in it. Meanwhile, back in Shanghai, the Chen family empire was beginning to crack. Ethan Chen had taken credit for several achievements, but the truth soon surfaced. His abilities were ordinary at best. Without Alex secretly fixing his work like before, Ethan struggled. The company's newest tech project failed spectacularly. Investors began withdrawing. The once proud Chen Group was losing millions. At the dining table, tension filled the room. Alex's father slammed a newspaper on the table. "Ethan, why did the research team resign?" Ethan's face turned pale. "They said the technology wasn't ready." His sister muttered bitterly. "If Alex were still here, this wouldn't have happened." The room fell silent. For the first time in years, someone had spoken Alex's name again, but it was too late. Sarah sat in her apartment staring at a news broadcast. On the screen was Alex giving a lecture at an international conference. He looked different, confident, calm, untouchable. The reporter said, "Dr. Alex Carter has become one of the most influential scientists of this generation." Sarah's hands trembled slightly. 5 years ago, she believed Alex would always remain the quiet boy chasing the Chen family's approval. But the man on the screen was someone else entirely. She whispered softly, "Alex." For the first time in her life, she realized something terrifying. The person she abandoned had become someone she could never reach again. Desperate to save his reputation, Ethan made a reckless decision. He stole experimental data from another company. The scandal exploded overnight. News headlines filled every screen. Chen Group heir involved in research fraud. The company's stock collapsed. Investors fled. Lawsuits piled up. Inside the Chen mansion, Alex's father aged 10 years in 1 week. His sister shouted at Ethan, "You ruined everything!" Ethan snapped back angrily. If Alex were here, he would fix it like always. But this time, Alex was gone, and no one could save them. Months later, Alex returned to Shanghai for an international medical conference. His driver stopped outside a luxury hotel. As Alex stepped out of the car, someone suddenly called his name. "Alex?" He turned. Standing there was Sarah. She looked thinner than before, her confidence gone. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, she forced a smile. "You've changed." Alex looked at her calmly. "Yes." Sarah hesitated before saying quietly, "I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air. 5 years ago, Alex had dreamed of hearing those words. Now, they meant nothing. He simply replied, "I know." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Do you hate me?" Alex thought for a moment, then he shook his head. "No." Because hatred required emotional attachment, and Sarah no longer existed in his world. He walked past her without looking back. For Sarah, that moment hurt more than any anger. She realized she had not lost Alex to another woman, she had lost him to his own future. The next morning, international news exploded with a major announcement. Helios Biomedical Institute had acquired Chen Group's remaining research division. The buyer? Dr. Alex Carter. At the signing ceremony, Alex's father appeared pale and exhausted. He stared at the young man across the table. "You planned this, didn't you?" Alex answered calmly, "No." Then he added quietly, "You destroyed yourselves." The old man's hands trembled. For the first time in his life, he looked at Alex with regret, but Alex had already signed the papers. The Chen family's greatest asset now belonged to the son they had discarded. That evening, Alex stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Lights stretched endlessly into the distance. 5 years ago, he had left this city with nothing but pain. Now he returned with everything he built himself. His assistant approached. "Dr. Carter, the board is waiting." Alex nodded. As he walked inside, he remembered the words he once said. The best revenge is living a life where they no longer matter, and he had done exactly that. The rain was falling again. 5 years ago, a thin 10-year-old boy had stood in the rain outside the Chen mansion, hoping this family would become his home. Today, the rain returned, but everything was different. Inside the headquarters of Helios Biomedical Institute, Alex Carter sat in his office reviewing reports. The glass windows stretched from floor to ceiling, overlooking the entire city. A knock sounded on the door. "Dr. Carter," his assistant said carefully, "there are visitors asking to see you." Alex didn't look up from the documents. "Who?" The assistant hesitated. "It's the Chen family." For a moment, the room fell silent. Then Alex closed the file slowly. "Let them in." When the door opened, 4 familiar figures walked in. Alex's father, his mother, his sister, and Ethan, but they looked nothing like the powerful family they once were. His father's hair had turned almost completely white. His mother looked exhausted. Even his proud sister no longer held her arrogant posture. Ethan looked the worst of all. The confident smile he once wore was gone. For several seconds, no one spoke. Finally, Alex's father stepped forward. "Alex." It was the first time he had ever spoken Alex's name without coldness. Alex leaned back in his chair. "Yes?" The old man lowered his head slightly, the head of the once powerful Chen family, bowing. "We came to ask for your help." Alex watched him quietly. Outside the window, lightning flashed. "Help with what?" His sister spoke first, her voice tense. "The company is about to collapse. Investors are suing us, and the bank refuses to extend the loan." She clenched her fists. "If Helios acquires our remaining shares, we might survive." Alex looked at her calmly. The same sister who once said, "You're still not Ethan." Now she couldn't even meet her eyes.
Ethan suddenly stepped forward. "Brother, please." Alex raised an eyebrow slightly. "Brother." That word sounded almost ironic. Ethan continued nervously. "The fraud case ruined my reputation. No university will accept me now. If the company falls, everything will be over." Alex asked quietly, "Why are you telling me this?" Ethan froze. Because 5 years ago, he would have said the same thing Alex once heard. "You should know your place." Now the situation had reversed. Alex's mother finally broke down. She stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "Alex, we were wrong." Her voice trembled. "We didn't treat you well, but we raised you for 11 years. Doesn't that mean anything?" Alex looked at her silently. He remembered every night he studied alone, every competition where no one came to watch, every time he was compared to Ethan. Then he spoke calmly. "Yes, it means something." Hope appeared in their eyes. Then Alex finished his sentence. "It taught me never to depend on you." The hope disappeared instantly. Alex stood up slowly. Everyone instinctively straightened. Even now, he carried a presence they couldn't ignore. "If you want Helios to invest," Alex said calmly, "I have one condition." His father quickly asked, "What is it?" Alex looked directly at Ethan. "You will resign from the Chen Group permanently." The room froze. Ethan's face turned pale. "What?" Alex continued calmly. "You are the reason investors no longer trust the company. If the Chen Group wants to survive, it must remove its greatest liability." The words struck harder than a slap. Ethan clenched his fists. "You're doing this on purpose." Alex's expression remained calm. "No." Then he added quietly, "This is called consequences." Alex's sister suddenly spoke. "If we agree, will you save the company?" Alex answered honestly, "I will consider it." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she slowly lowered her head, for the first time in her life. "Alex," her voice was barely audible, "I'm sorry." But Alex simply replied, "You're apologizing to the wrong person." She didn't understand, so Alex explained calmly, "You should apologize to the boy who spent 11 years trying to be your brother." The Chen family left the building in silence. The rain outside was heavier now. Inside the office, Alex's assistant asked carefully, "Dr. Carter, will you really help them?" Alex looked out the window. After a long pause, he answered, "I already did." The assistant looked confused. Alex smiled faintly. "I taught them what it feels like to beg." Then he picked up the next report. Because unlike before, The Chen family was no longer the center of his world. They were just another business decision. 3 months after the Chen family's visit, life continued moving forward. For Alex, the past had already become distant. Inside the Helios Biomedical Institute, the atmosphere was busy as always. Researchers hurried through the hallways carrying data files, and screens displayed complex scientific models. Alex walked through the laboratory floor calmly. Every person there respected him, not because of a family name, but because of his ability. His assistant approached. "Dr. Carter, the International Neuroscience Conference begins tomorrow. The keynote guest has already arrived." Alex nodded. "Who is it?" The assistant smiled slightly. "Dr. Emily Wright." The conference hall was filled with scientists from around the world. When Alex entered, many people immediately stood up to greet him. But across the room, one woman simply watched him quietly. Dr. Emily Wright. She was known as one of the most brilliant biomedical engineers in Europe. Her research in neural interfaces had already revolutionized prosthetic technology. Confident, sharp, unimpressed by reputation. When Alex approached, she extended her hand casually. "So, you're Alex Carter." Alex shook her hand. "And you must be Emily Wright." She studied him for a moment before smiling. "I've read your research papers. Your regeneration theory is impressive." Alex replied calmly. "Your neural interface design is equally groundbreaking." Emily laughed softly. "Well, at least we're honest scientists." For the first time in a long while, Alex felt something unusual. Respect. Not pity, not manipulation, just genuine recognition. Back in Shanghai, the Chen mansion felt colder than ever. Alex's father sat silently at the dining table. Ethan stood across from him, furious. "You're really considering his condition?" His father finally looked up. "The company will collapse otherwise." Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "So you're sacrificing your own son?" The old man's expression hardened. "For the first time in years, I'm thinking about the family's survival." Ethan realized something terrifying. The position he had reclaimed so proudly was slipping away, and the person replacing him again was Alex. That evening, Alex received a message on his phone. It was from Sarah. "Alex, can we meet? Just once." Alex stared at the screen for a long moment. 5 years ago, a single message from her could ruin his entire day. Now it barely stirred any emotion. After thinking for a moment, he replied with one word: "All right." They met at a quiet cafe. Sarah arrived early. When Alex walked in, she stood up nervously. For a moment, she simply stared at him. "You really changed," she said softly. Alex sat down calmly. "People do." She forced a small smile. "I watched your conference speech yesterday." Then she added quietly, "You look happy." Alex thought for a moment. Yes. That simple answer hurt her more than anger. Sarah looked down at her hands. "Alex, do you remember when we first met on the school rooftop?" "I do." "You looked so lonely." She took a slow breath. "I thought I could protect you." Alex replied gently. "You did." Her eyes widened slightly. "But only for a while." Silence filled the space between them. Finally, she asked the question she feared most. "Is there any chance for us again?" Alex looked at her calmly. The girl who once meant everything to him now felt like a distant memory. He answered honestly, "No." Her eyes filled with tears. "Because of Ethan?" Alex headed no. Then he said the words she would remember forever. "Because I finally learned how to live without you." Later that night, Alex stood on the balcony of the research center. The city lights stretched endlessly. Behind him, Emily approached with 2 cups of coffee. "Still working late?" Alex accepted the cup. "Always." She leaned against the railing. "You know, we could combine our research." Alex looked curiously. "A partnership." Emily smiled confidently. "A revolution." For the first time in years, Alex felt genuine excitement about the future. Not revenge, not proving anyone wrong, just building something greater. He raised his coffee cup slightly. "To the future." Emily clinked hers against his. "To the future." And somewhere far behind them,
the past finally faded away. The Grand Hall of the International Medical Summit was filled with the world's top scientists, investors, and journalists. Cameras flashed as Dr. Alex Carter walked onto the stage next to Dr. Emily Wright. Together, they had just announced a revolutionary medical system capable of restoring nerve function to patients once thought permanently paralyzed. The world called it Project Regenesis, and overnight, Alex Carter became one of the most influential scientists on the planet. But thousands of miles away, in Shanghai, the Chen family watched the broadcast in silence. The scandal surrounding Ethan never truly disappeared. Investigators reopened the research fraud case when several former employees stepped forward with evidence. Within weeks, the truth surfaced. Ethan had not only falsified research data, he had also stolen intellectual property from other laboratories. News outlets exploded with headlines. Former Chen Group heir faces criminal charges. Police arrived at the Chen mansion one cold morning. Ethan shouted desperately as they placed handcuffs on his wrists. "This is a misunderstanding. My brother will explain everything." But there was no brother coming to save him anymore. The car door closed, and Ethan Chen disappeared into the back seat of a police vehicle. Without Ethan and without investor confidence, the Chen Group collapsed rapidly. Their stock value plummeted. Banks seized assets. Luxury cars and properties were auctioned off to pay debts. The once powerful Chen mansion stood half empty, its lights dark at night. At the dining table where the family once mocked Alex, only silence remained. Alex's father stared at a newspaper headline: Helios Biomedical becomes global industry leader. The accompanying photo showed Alex standing confidently beside Emily. For a long time, the old man didn't speak. Finally, he whispered quietly, "That should have been our son." His sister sat nearby, staring blankly. For the first time, she truly understood something. The person they had always looked down on had been the most capable member of the family all along, but they had thrown him away. Months later, Sarah stood outside Helios headquarters. The massive glass building reflected the sky like a mirror. She had rehearsed what to say 100 times. When Alex finally walked out after a meeting, she stepped forward. "Alex." He stopped. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Sarah looked nervous, something she had never been before. "I heard about Ethan and the Chen family." Alex simply nodded. She took a breath. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness." Her voice trembled slightly. "But I wanted to say one thing." Alex waited calmly. Sarah forced a small smile. "You were always the best person among us." The wind moved softly between them. Finally, she asked quietly, "Are you happy?" Alex thought for a moment. Then he looked toward the building behind him, where Emily was speaking with researchers. "Yes." Sarah followed his gaze. She saw the woman standing beside him in every news report. Confident, brilliant, someone who looked at Alex as an equal. Sarah understood everything at that moment. She smiled sadly. "I'm glad." Then she turned and walked away. This time, neither of them looked back. 1 year later, Alex received a request for a private meeting. The visitor was unexpected, his former father. The old man looked fragile now, as if the past years had taken all his strength. They sat across from each other in silence. Finally, the man spoke. "Alex, I wanted to see you once before I leave Shanghai." Alex waited. The old man's voice trembled slightly. "I spent my whole life building the Chen family empire." He paused. "But I destroyed the only son who truly deserved it." For the first time in his life, the proud patriarch lowered his head completely. "I'm sorry." The apology hung quietly in the air. Alex looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke calmly. "I accepted that long ago." The old man looked up hopefully, but Alex continued. "Acceptance doesn't mean things return to how they were." There was no anger in his voice, just truth. The old man slowly nodded. "I understand." When he stood to leave, he stopped at the door. "You became someone far greater than the Chen family deserved." Then he walked away, and Alex never saw him again. 5 years later, the Helios Medical Center had expanded across multiple countries. Millions of patients had benefited from the technologies Alex helped create. One evening, Alex stood on a balcony overlooking the city skyline. Emily joined him, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "You're thinking again," she said with a smile. Alex chuckled. "Just remembering the past." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Do you regret anything?" Alex looked at the lights stretching endlessly across the city. He remembered the lonely boy in the rain, the cold mansion, the freezing pool, the people who once made him feel worthless. Then he shook his head. "No." Emily handed him a glass. "To everything you built." Alex raised his glass slightly. "To the future." Some people spend their entire lives searching for acceptance. Alex finally discovered something far more important. He didn't need revenge, because the greatest victory was becoming someone the past could never control again.